Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Sanford Kunkel, who is the CEO and co-founder of Spot Fund. Sanford, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're really thrilled to have you, Sanford, and thank you for taking the time today. You've created an app for the Apple devices that is really kind of exciting. I really love what you're doing. Tell us about what you're doing.
Spot Fund, the app, is a mobile micro-donation platform that allows users to connect with causes and current events in increments of $1, $2, and $3. The idea being that if we limit it to $1, $2, and $3, everyone can participate in conversations that are happening on social media and actually impact these causes, current events, and human interest stories.
I really love the concept here because I know that I get a little fatigued dropping $25 and $100 donations into charitable causes, and it creates a friction, and so I don't give probably as often as I would like to, and so I'm intrigued by the potential to have a place where you can make donations that are so small as to be inconsequential to my budget, but that in aggregate could add up to real money for organizations. Tell us a little bit more about how it works. What do people see when they open the app?
So when people open the app, they see a feed that's similar to Instagram. And in this feed, the feed will represent a lot of the conversations that are reflecting, currently in the social media landscape, be it on Twitter or Facebook. But so, for example, Access of the Lion, right? That's something that went viral in the last year. If you opened up the Spot Fund app, there could be a story about saving the African lions. You'd read the story, it'd be user-generated content. You'd have the opportunity to donate $1, $2, or $3, just drag a token onto that story. And before you do that, you're able to see the funding destination. So every time a story is created, a funding destination is designated. And this is the nonprofit that will benefit. So if you're reading about Access of the Lion, it's going to be an African Lion Conservancy, right? So you can read these stories, and instead of going out and tweeting about them, you can read about them on Spot Fund, make a donation, and share that donation on the Facebook. Thus trying to encourage your followers or your friends on Facebook or Twitter to also share in your action. So you mentioned that you have fatigue giving $25, $50, and you're making these donations anonymously, right? So you're not even really sharing what your passions are with your friends and your family, and potentially inspiring them to also give. So if I have 1,000 Facebook friends, which I do, which is probably in the lower third of what a lot of people have nowadays, if I can inspire 5% of my Facebook friends to give the minimum donation on Spot Fund, which is $1, I'm essentially peeling off, assuming I give a $1 donation, I'm essentially peeling off a $51 donation, correct? Which is something that I can almost do a couple times a week, whether it's the Orlando shooting, whether it's Access of the Lion, whether it's one of the myriad of issues that are constantly, floating out there, on the internet, on social media, that people are getting excited about and conversing about on a daily basis. That's kind of the...
Yeah, so you've set it up so that the technology makes it easy for you to share right from the app on Facebook and Twitter both. Is that right?
Correct. So when you make a donation, the next step after you've chosen $1, $2, or $3 is to choose to share. You can share it to Facebook, you can share it to Twitter, you can share it to group text, right? So if you have a group text with 15 friends, you can share that donation to group text, and they can click on the link right in their group text, be taken right to the funding page within the app where they're prompted to give $1, $2, or $3. That particular sharing method should have a very high hit rate, right? I mean, if you're on a group text message with 15 of your best friends, whether it's a share house that you have, at the beach for the summer, those messages tend to be pretty active. There's no reason that everyone shouldn't get on the back of your donation, right? So if you inspire them all to give $3, that's a $45 donation, not including, your $1, $2, or $3 donation.
Yeah, it really is exciting. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty just a little bit. There are some transaction costs. You've got to make money. If I donate $1, how much is it actually going to get to the charity?
Spot Fund takes a 5% transaction fee. The goal is to get that down to 0% in time. Okay, right now it's 5%, just to simply support the 15-man office that we have, the technology that goes into this. One thing that we do is, we have full-time staff of 2 people that vet all of these charities. So, we think that one of the core values that Spot Fund provides is, let's take again Cecil Lion, right? So you saw Jimmy Kimmel give a monologue about it that went viral. He was crying. It was kind of a YouTube sensation. Jimmy Fallon talks about it. Larry Logan on 60 Minutes talks about it. Bill Maher talks about it. John Oliver talks about it. What's interesting about these situations, a lot of times each person, and in this case, every single person mentioned a different African Lion conservancy, right? So maybe someone directs you to AfricanLion.net, AfricanLion.biz, AfricanLion.com. And at the end of the day, if everyone's hearing this, wouldn't it be more effective if one organization got that money, right? So if everyone's giving $1,000 to one, if we could if those 5 people that saw the 5 different URLs gave it all to one, that organization would be most uniquely equipped to impact the situation. So what we try to do at Spot Fund is identify the best African Lion conservancy rather than just uploading a bunch of them. So there's a lot of support that goes in this. There's a lot of technology that goes in this. I assume you've seen the user face. It's very design centric. The technology is very robust. It's a very elevated product. So right now we take a 5% transaction fee. The goal is once we hit critical mass to get that down to 0%. Eventually, and that 5% is really not a revenue driver for us. What our revenue driver will be long term will probably be sponsorship within the app, whether or not, for example, American Express might want to sponsor Clean Water Initiative, right? Nat Geo might want to sponsor a Save the Whales initiative. That is our long-term revenue goal. The 5% is just a transaction fee to support our costs up front right now.
So what is the mechanism that people are using for the donations right now? Is that credit cards, automatic debits from credit cards, or PayPal, checking accounts? What are you using? Yes,
right now you will upload your credit card. You will upload your credit card to make payments. Correct.
Great. Now, how long have you been operating?
We just released in the App Store 2 weeks ago. So, the product has been in motion since we came, myself and one of the other co-founders, Brian Velarde, kind of came up with the concept in September 2014. So, it's almost been a 2-year journey just to get it in the App Store. So now we're 2 weeks into launch, and now the goal is to drive awareness, which is what we hope you can help us do.
Yeah. So how's it going so far? You got a good roster of people signed up?
Success has been great. We've had a nice piece in TechCrunch. We had a great piece in Fast Company, which we've been told is somewhat rare for first week launch, because the story is the success of the app. But so many people are intrigued by what we're trying to do, which is 2.6 billion people have smartphones, right? Charitable giving is a $360 billion market, and less than 1% of that $360 billion was generated via mobile devices, which is crazy because the entire world has moved to mobile devices. So this is one of the last dinosaurs to kind of embrace the future. And so we think we've built the system that can bring this industry into the new era, right? So, the press has been intriguing. The downloads have been great. What we've been most encouraged about is the amount of people that are giving us their credit cards, because this is very, it's a very sensitive thing to ask people for their payment. But when they get in the system, I think that the design, the layout, the integrity behind the product, all of our collateral, media, website, gives credence to the fact that this is a noble endeavor with grand ambitions and smart people behind it.
Now, you're iOS only at this point. Are you planning to do an Android version?
Absolutely. I think we want to get traction on iOS first and prove our hypothesis that people do have an interest in being more civic-minded and connecting with causes in increments of $1, $2, and $3. And we think that the marketplace has a need for Spot Fund, and I'm going to give you one example of why I don't have problems sleeping at night, and why I believe that this is a need in the marketplace. Last year, Taylor Swift won an award for giving $50,000 to New York City public schools. And now there's a problem with that. The problem there is twofold. Number one, I can't imagine $50,000 moves the needle for New York City. So if they're giving out awards for $50,000 donations, that's kind of disturbing. Secondly, Taylor Swift is worth a lot of money. You know, she might be able to give more than $50,000. But what's interesting about this is she has 80 million Twitter followers. If she could convert 1%.
Yeah. Sanford, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, we lost you there for a second. We lost you there when you, with the thought of Taylor Swift, if she could convert 1% of her 80 million?
Yeah. Taylor Swift has 80 million Twitter followers. If she could convert 1% of her Twitter followers to give $1, she could have raised $800,000, which is 16 times the amount that she won an award for, right? So Spot Fund is really developed to attract these power users that have the ability to broadcast to the masses. And another example I'd like to give is, recently I went to a U2 concert. Bono is, he's very well known for his Africa Red Foundation. During the concert, he literally put up a URL on the Jumbotron that reminded people when they got home to go to visit his Red Foundation. If during that concert, he puts up a spot tag, right? And I should probably tell you what a spot tag is. A spot tag is an asterisk followed by a unique syntax, which is designated by the user, which represents a shortcut to the funding opportunity within the app, right? So if, let's say, 60 Minutes is running a piece about the African lion, where in the past they may have put, Lair Logan goes on assignment, and at the end of the piece, they tell you if you were, moved by the piece, you can visit africanlion.org, right? So in that situation, they've given you a non-mobile optimized website. So you'd probably, after the show, you'd have to get up, get your laptop, register for the website, put in your credit card information, decide how much money you're going to give, and then make an anonymous donation, right? A lot of pain points associated there. With the introduction of the spot tag, what would have happened is the 60 Minutes producers would then designate a spot tag, which would probably say asterisk 60 Minutes lines, right? So at the conclusion of that segment, you would pull out your phone, you'd enter in that unique syntax, the spot tag, 60 Minutes lines, you'd immediately be taken to the funding opportunity within the app, right? You drag a $1, $2, or $3 token on it, you'd share it to your network, as I mentioned earlier, Facebook or Twitter, hopefully inspiring your friends or followers to also give. So that's what the spot tag is. The spot tag is a shortcut to a funding opportunity within the app. So I go back, taking you back to the Bono example. So if during his concert, he would have simply put up on the Jumbotron, spot tag Bono Africa. If he's playing Wembley Stadium, 100,000 people can pull out their phones and potentially donate $1, $2, or $3 on the spot to this, rather than having to go home, make an anonymous donation on a desktop experience, right? So that's the spot tag. So he's another example of a power user, right? Someone that can broadcast in masses, whether it's the Olympics in Rio, right? 200 million people are going to watch the opening ceremonies. If you put a spot tag at the bottom right-hand corner of the NBC broadcast, and you convert 1% of everybody watching the opening ceremonies to give $1, we're talking about raising $2 million for whether it's the Special Olympics, whether it's the Zika virus, whether it's something unique to Rio. So the idea is that behind Spot Fund and the 1, 2, 3, that this is really developed for the power users. And the spot tag speaks to that because it allows our funding opportunities and these stories to live in the external world with a shortcut, right? With that asterisk. So we want the asterisk to become synonymous with giving, with causes, with current events, with an action. So, and a lot of people say, well, what's the difference between the hashtag? The hashtag is simply a method to mine data. The hashtag doesn't do anything, it just sorts noise, right? But the spot tag is a shortcut to a funding opportunity. And that's one of the key things, along with the 1, 2, 3, is we're making the idea of being civic minded, democratic, because everyone can connect in $1, $2, and $3 amounts. And we're allowing these funding opportunities to live in the external world. So that's kind of a couple of the key backbones of Spot Fund that I kind of wanted to touch on.
Fantastic. Yeah. Now, Sanford, I want to just ask you a couple of personal questions while we've got you. You're obviously a successful guy, a role model to many. Who do you look up to as a role model? Who inspires you?
Well, that's a tricky question. But one person that inspires me, and this is kind of a cliche answer, but if you look back I'm a big sports fan, right? I'm a competitive person. I grew up, in the 80s and 90s, so Michael Jordan was kind of my hero. And when I think about why he was such an attractive person to look up to, not only was he the best at what he did, but if you look at his career, he always kept his nose clean. He did things kind of quietly and humbly, and he didn't have to go out and tell people how great he was. He avoided scandal. He was simply the best at what he did. He was the most marketable. He had a great smile. Everybody loved him. He was universally loved, but he did it with class. And that's when you think about Michael Jordan, you don't think about anything but the rings. And you can't say that about a lot of the superstars and the high profile people that exist in our culture today. So, being the best, but doing it the right way, is like Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Well, I think Michael Jordan's a great role model. Now, there are a lot of things you could be doing to make money. You've chosen to really do something that will change the world for good. Why did you feel that personal calling or connection to this purpose?
Well, this isn't about making money. Maybe potentially that's a byproduct. The genesis of Spot Fund was really, me and my partners, we would watch all these television shows and we'd watch all these conversations and these angry tweets and this hot air being blown out on Facebook. And, we're civic-minded people. We're interested in politics. We're interested in policy. We're interested in why things are the way that they are and how can people affect the way things are, right? So we were just anxious to develop a tool that kind of aggregated people's real opinions, right? So if you think about K Street and what happens in Washington, D.C., you essentially have all these lobbyists that are lobbying politicians to make laws, that benefit, that potentially affect, all of humanity. But how do we aggregate the real opinions of people, right? Is there a tool that can exist to kind of be the marketplace for consensus? And we think Spot Fund can be that, right? So whether it's the Keystone Pipeline, why should politicians and everyone on K Street make decisions when we could just take that to the masses and put that story on Spot Fund and say, how do you feel about the Keystone Pipeline? Should we destroy a natural habitat, to bring oil to the Gulf from Canada? Let's create a marketplace for pedestrians. And that's kind of what I think called us is how do we encourage other people to be civic minded? How do we encourage other people to care about policy? And how do we aggregate these opinions? And how do we potentially transition these opinions into actions, right? And that's what the mechanism of the $1, $2, and $3, aspires to be.
Right. It is a great way to sort of catalyze the slacktivist in all of us to do just a little bit more than an angry tweet. And we can all afford $1 a day to support our ranting. Now, we ask all of our guests for an impact hack, some tip that would help us to do more good in the world. What's yours?
What exactly do you mean?
Give us some idea of something that we can do every day that you do that helps you to be more effective at doing good.
I think the first thing that you can do is read the news. That's why Spot Fund exists, is because we were tired of just digesting the news and taking it for what it was worth, right? How do you take the news and then put your mark on it? That's what we hope Spot Fund can be, is taking that news and allowing people to interact with the news.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's a great tip. And Sanford, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. It's been a great discussion. Now, before you go, tell people how they can download the app, how they can connect with you and learn more about what you're doing.
Well, Devin, first of all, thank you for having us on the show. We're humbled. In terms of people connecting with the app, obviously the easiest way is to go to the App Store and type in Spot Fund, SPOTFUND. Or you can go to our website, spotfund.com, and also you can view our video on there, which kind of gives a product overview, which we think is pretty well done. There's also a link to the App Store from there. But the best and simplest way is to go into the App Store, download the app, register for the app. Once you download it, make a donation, share it to your Facebook page, and hopefully inspire other people to get behind the cause that you've identified right out of the gate as something you want to connect with and start impacting your world.
Fantastic. Well, Sanford, we really appreciate the time you've taken to be with us today. We wish you every success with this effort to monetize social media for good.
Thank you, Devin. We appreciate it.
All right. Let's do some good.